Congratulations on your meeting.
Oh, thanks.
And so, but one of the things is that at the bottom was mentioned. Some of those exhibitions and stuff like that. Figure out how.
Saying orientation.
Is that live?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you guys so much for coming today. For those of you who break the weather, thank you so much for joining us in person. And for those who are joining online, thank you so much for joining us virtually. My name is Fitz, and I'm the president of JSQCA. For those who don't know, JSQCA is the Journal Square Community Association. Can everybody hear me okay?
Oh yeah.
Excellent. So the Journal Square Community Association, for those who don't know, our mission is very straightforward. It's to promote a cleaner, greener, safer Journal Square. And today we're going to kick off our first meeting of the year by really tackling a very important issue to our community, which is green spaces and the lack thereof. But we're on a mission to change that. And so tonight we're going to have 3 different presentations on 3 different important projects, some that are in our community directly and others that are in the city. And also adjacent to our community. But first I want to just give a big shout out to HCCC, so Hudson County Community College, for this amazing venue. Those guys have always been awesome and treated us really, really well, and we look forward to a continued partnership with the community college. So thank you guys so much for everything that you do for us. And so basically tonight, our agenda is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to first start with the Bergen Arches Preservation Coalition. And so Rahid Cornejo and Gris Gratto are going to give us a presentation on the Bergen Arches. What is that? What is it all about? What can you do to get involved, and sort of where we are with that project. Then that's going to be roughly an hour, 15 minutes-ish. They're also going to seek community input. This will not be the last time that the community is going to have a chance to provide input. We're going to have a sustained dialogue with the Bergen Arches to make sure that your input is considered as this project moves forward. Then we're gonna hear from Laura Moss regarding Courthouse Park. It'll be a very brief presentation regarding, or brief updates regarding where that project is. And then we're gonna conclude the presentation portion with the Embankment. And they're also gonna give us some brief updates as to what's going on with that project. That'll be about 15 to 20 minutes. And we'll conclude the evening by having our board election. So we're gonna have that towards the end, just because from a tech point of view, it's easier for us to structure things that way. And so if you're a current board member who's current with your dues, you should have gotten an index card. If you didn't, please contact our board members out in the front so that you can vote for 2 open board seats. More to come later when we're at that portion of the evening. And so without further ado, I will turn it to Chris or Rahid.
Co-team, we're gonna start.
We're gonna do the co-team, and you guys, take it away. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody, hello. My name is Rahid Cornejo. I'm the director of the Bergen Arches Preservation Coalition, BAPC. So what our organization does, we formed in 2018 after really looking at the Bergen Arches in a similar way as the 6th Street Embankment, where it was an underutilized transit corridor. Our organization has been working on creating sort of this awareness campaign on Bergen Arches. Because not a lot of people know what it is. And I just want to get everyone situated so that we understand what we're looking at and what exactly we're talking about. I still get people, and I've been doing this for 10 years, but I still get people that come up to me who have lived in Jersey City their whole lives and have no idea what this place is. So it's really surprising because it's kind of just hidden in plain sight. If you've ever ridden down Route 139 going to New York or out of Jersey City, commuting in and out, you probably have driven by it many times. This right here, this is an aerial shot. Dickinson High School's parking lot's right to the left, and it's on the intersection of Route 139 and Palisade. If you walked on Route 149, you've also probably walked right next to it. The reason why it's hard to see it is because it's not above ground, it's below ground. And it's kind of just hidden in plain sight, like I mentioned before. Here we can see an aerial map of the city. Journal Square itself is about a 10-minute proximity and walking distance to the center of the Bergen Arches. This map shows you multiple greenways or proposed greenway trails, not yet set in stone, but you can see the Horseman's Branch, 6th Street Embankment, and the Essex Hudson Greenway on the west side of Jersey City. The Arches acts almost like a major connector between both those projects, and the idea is to have a continuous greenway that connects you from one end to the other, coming into Jersey City and into downtown. The Bergen Arches is, out of all these spaces, the only one that's within the Journal Square boundaries. And if it were to be a greenway, it would add a significant amount of green space to the city. Our organization likes to say that Jersey City, or I guess Journal Square specifically, does lack a lot of green space, but Jersey City itself has a lot of green space that it's not accessible to people. So there's a lot of greenery everywhere. If you look at a map, and you just can't get to it, and there's no public access to it. Our goal is to try to change that. So let's just situate yourself within the Arches, understanding what it was and what it is now. So historically, this served as a passenger rail, and it used to have 4 steam engine lines running through it. It was really the sort of commuting rail to taking people into New York City back in the early 1900s. And it's an interesting thing that it was built as a steam rail because this was right at a point in time where we were very close to actually getting into underground electric rail. And the reason the Arches was only utilized for about 40 to 50 years was because as soon as they figured out how to do underground electric rail, they didn't have any needs for steam engine rails. They didn't need this property anymore for that purpose. Everything kind of migrated over to the new technology, and this was left abandoned ever since the mid-1900s. It's been sitting dormant for about 70 to 80 years, and it's grown a lot of, I guess, natural vegetation over that time. Hasn't been maintained. This is completely nature just taking over abandoned infrastructure. So here's another larger kind of zoomed out view of the Jersey City map, showing you all the potential greenway connections. So what can the arches be? It could be the major connector between two greenways. It could be itself a greenway, a sort of passive park, a nature walk, a hike. You kind of can, after seeing the pictures and kind of visualizing yourself in it, you can kind of make it, you know, your own and figure out what can this be. It's a space that can be utilized for multiple things. Historically, it has always been a transit corridor, and now, being that we have new ways of getting around the city, we want to incorporate that and offer people multiple options to use the space. But the idea is to give people access, to get you down there so that you can see what kind of resource this could be for the city, and it gets you thinking about, well, how can we incorporate it into the fabric of Jersey City?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are there any proposals as to what the Bergen Arches should be right now?
Yes, there's been many proposals as to what the arches should be. It's been studied since the early 2000s. NJ Transit has originally proposed before to make it a bus route coming into Jersey City. And then, you know, we've proposed a sort of greenway option, multiple transit options, shared use transits. But now again, the conversation has come up with New Jersey Transit through their Transitway project, kind of trying to bring people from the Meadowlands complex to Secaucus, and then from Secaucus to Journal Square. They want to also use this as part of that sort of plan. And being that it is their property, they have every right to do whatever they want with it. The thing that we want to advocate for is for them to consider the use of a greenway in such a large-scale infrastructure project. A greenway is a very economic sort of component of that project. It wouldn't cost a lot to build, and if there's already monies allocated towards building this large bus route or rail infrastructure, then they should consider using it for a greenway as well, so that people can get access.
And the reason we're here today, right now, is because we want to get really good feedback from the community on what their vision is. And it's a little bit tough, and it's a little bit of a large ask, because not a lot of people have been in the arches. New Jersey Transit has been very generous with giving us some access to do some testing and some studying of the site to kind of work up to this moment. But that's honestly raised a lot of good questions that people have asked. You know, could we get down there? Will there be a bus stop for Jersey City? Will there be a bike trail? Is the bike trail going to be fast or slow? Is there room for two bike trails? One maybe for commuters and people moving much more quickly, possibly from Montclair, because as we see from the connection, there's a scenario where you could jump on the Essex Hudson Greenway in Montclair, ride your bike down through a future bridge at the Hackensack River, hopefully, into the arches, down out of the arches, incredible moment here, and then onto one of our future presenters scenario, and either to the river or to Liberty State Park. So there's a lot of great questions, and one thing that I would hope you would all just kind of start following away is questions you have for us and ideas that you have for what the arches should be, because our hope over the next couple of months is to have a very tight professional summary of what the neighborhood wants, backed up by serious study, serious design, and serious feasibility in terms of what's possible with the arches, so that we can present that to New Jersey Transit and say, here's a thoughtful suggestion as to what could go in the arches, in addition to a bus line, which there's a world where maybe there's just a bus line for a while, but there's a lot of folks that are asking, can there be more than that? Can there be paths, nature? Will there be a spot for birds? There's a lot of wonderful birds down there right now. So file your questions away, because we want them tonight, or we want them in the future. You can do the next slide.
This is a video.
The person who shot this, I mean, they were not highly qualified. They're not an expert filmmaker. They do stumble. There are some missteps. But the idea here is we're asking for a comment period on something that folks honestly aren't allowed to go to. Freeze frame. Oh, nice. So I'm walking through the arches right here, and it's a little bit tough to get a sense of the scale of this, but I did bring a tape measure. This is about 50 feet wide. Does anyone want to be my measurer? So what does this look like, right? We're gonna find out. This is about 20 feet right here, right? So let me go again. Everything's starting, the alarm goes off, we're gonna find out, right? I'm out, right? I've got another 15 feet to go to get to the other side of the arches. So it's this whole room plus a smidge is the amount of space we're talking about. You guys think this room would be a cool park? If it was just this much space? What if there was another one behind it? Is there another one behind that? It keeps going, right? Yeah. So we're just walking through the arches. This is just walk with me, right? Pretend we're walking through this. We've gone through the greenway. We're going through one of the tunnels. If anybody has any questions, we're going to walk for about 5 minutes. We've got some time. This is a short section of the arches, but think about it.
Like the arch itself, the physical structure,
Yep.
that also transit property, the top part, there's roads on most of those arches, right?
Yeah, exactly. The arches are a little bit like a sandwich of who owns what and where and who's responsible. Ranging from New Jersey Transit up to a rail line, up to, depending on what the street is, it's either a state or a city responsibility, up to surface streets, up to parks that Jersey City has started building on the top. So part of the complexity of this is all the different stakeholders and all the different layers of studying all the different tax parcels, all the different things that could have moved through the ground over the last 70 years and gone in, gone out, taken a left turn, taken a right turn. So that's one of the things that when we're studying this, we're studying all of those pieces, and we're testing the soil, we're testing the sides, we're testing some structural elements to see what's possible here and what actually is it in its current configuration.
I guess one question that would help me visualize the space, and thank you for giving that representation, is there a world where you could have a bus lane and a bike lane and a rail lane?
Yep,
You can do all of that.
good question. And so there's a question like, what is a bus lane, right? There's a lot of different answers to that question, ranging from, is it a single road, or there's European bus lanes that have more of like a paver style and green space in the middle. There's bus lanes that have more like an actual highway where there's a curb, there's a pull-off lane, there's a full-on bus lane, there's a space, another full-on bus lane, pull over, maintenance, and then same thing with light rail, right? Like, what is light rail in downtown Jersey City? Is it embedded in a street that otherwise is accessible to other vehicles? Is it a dedicated thing? Is it a dedicated thing with space on either side? And then same thing with a bike lane. People have asked us, what is your vision of a bike lane? Don't have one, you tell me, right? But some people have said, I want to commute from Montclair, I want to come ripping through this thing, I'm trying to get to the path, I want to get to work, I just want to be cranking, right? Music is in, we're going. Other people have said, I'm from the neighborhood, I want to come down, I want to be with my family, be with my kids. I don't want somebody blasting by at 35 miles an hour. I want a separate, more protected space. And other folks have said, I'm somewhere in between. Like, can it just be a bike lane like a Jersey City bike lane where it just kind of exists and there's some pull-offs? So, quick answer, there's a physical world where can these things exist? There's a math world where what does a bus lane cost? What does a bike lane cost? What does a rail line cost? How do they connect on the other ends?
I have a question. Now, does CSX still run those trains in the middle to Greenville Yards?
Good question. If we come over here and we line this thing up, if you come to our museum, we've got the rest of the model, and we've got some of the other lines built in, but there is, next to the Bergen Arches right here, there are parallel lines that are separate rail lines that are outside of what we're calling the Bergen Arches way. There's a separate tunnels that are drilled next to the Bergen Arches that if we look at the model later, that come out here and loop around. So if you're seeing the trains down by Enos Jones,
Right.
those don't run through the Bergen Arches. They run through tunnels next to the Bergen Arches.
Oh, it's next to, it's not, as opposed to not
It's
above.
underground.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The Bergen Arches right now, wall to wall, is in many places just a wonderful, peaceful, calm forest that nobody gets to go to. For how long? Who was listening?
I think from the 50s, 1950s.
Yeah, 69 years this September, I think. So almost 70 years.
And so how are they structurally, the tunnels? Or
Uh,
is that just a New Jersey Transit problem?
It's, thankfully, it's not a New Jersey Transit problem. There are active roadways on top of all tunnels and buildings, courthouse, for example.
Right?
So structurally, the rock is good. The interior lining
Uh-huh.
needs a little kind love and care over time to be accessible.
One of the things I think is, at least for Journal Square, which is truly amazing about the space, is that when you get into the space, the city kind of goes away. You kind of really feel like you've gone to Palisades, you've
Oh,
gone to.
no, I understand. What is it, like
Because it's
50
like
feet
30,
below
because
grade?
it's like 30 feet to get to the top where the street level is.
Right, so
The other
then there's a
thing-
question on
Yeah.
how access it. My concern years ago was safety,
Mhm.
to go down there and, I used to say the police don't do a very good job of keeping the crime down above ground, let alone below ground.
Yeah, and I will say, when we access this from a study perspective, often always, we're accompanied by New Jersey Transit personnel. We always have a safety component. We call in to inform folks where we're going. Sometimes there's a law enforcement component that comes with us because there is a safety concern.
Right,
So
right.
certainly, nobody should leave this meeting and go into the arches and get up to shenanigans, because it is a space that has, just everything from like poison ivy to trip hazards to, people doing whatever people will do in there.
Yeah, I mean, any space left alone is the most dangerous. It's activating it, makes it safer. I think one of the things that's also very unique is the fact that it has structures that have covered that can be used for programs. So you don't have to put capital in for building gazebos. You don't have to put capital in for getting public spaces there. This is something that truly can take infrastructure from 100 years ago and pay to kind of make it more beautiful, make it a little bit more secure, rather than when you build open spaces, mostly in the United States, the open spaces that you have to build, you have to put a lot of capital in to build structures, to do educational programs, to do art programs, to do nature programs. And this actually has that embedded in the infrastructure that's there already. And I don't know if there's other spaces like that. Like, it's truly unique. Journal Square should really ask, what can we best use this space for us? Because when it becomes a commuter path, it bypasses you a little bit. Something to think about.
I think we've got that one, we've got that one, we've got that one. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, mostly a comment. I mean, you mentioned all these different things. The thing I've always appreciated about down there is the wildness, all the vegetation. 50, 60 years of growth, if we can preserve some of that, would be great. But of course, I don't know, if you're gonna put a transit line down there and park, that might not be an option. But it'd be nice if we can preserve some of that.
And one of the, gifts that we have in the area is that folks have gone through a similar process with the High Line in New York, and people asked and pointed out, it's something that was a very special, natural spot. How can you save some of that? How can you incorporate some of that in to
Right.
where we are? And one of the things we're studying is, where can areas be capped and you have a dedicated path, and then a portion of that area can be left just kind of wild and natural. And I'm hopeful that in not so far in the future, we can all get permission to take a community group and other people like the festivals into the arches, into at least the first and the second arch. New Jersey Transit has asked us to figure out how to make the path safe enough so we could bring in community members for a limited educational program. And I think when folks see some of the unique nature element, that they'll really appreciate your comment much more.
Yeah, this thing that really strikes me about the space, it'd be a shame to see that gone, but like I said, we can't really, Jersey City needs transit. And if they put that on the table, I don't see how we can go against that.
So when you presented this, you mentioned bus, rail, maybe 2 bike lanes. You didn't mention anything about preserving it as a walkable, unique space. And I've been in there many times back when that was not prohibitively illegal. So I know what it's like there. And one thing you didn't mention is that this was the deepest excavation in the world before the Panama Canal. So it has this amazing, not only the physicality of it, but the history of it is really unique. So I think you should be emphasizing that more in the presentation.
I think you've hit 2 things, and I was gonna start off with like a really dry list of facts, and I thought the folks would joke. But no, very, very much. Part of what we're doing is we're trying to collect as much of this documentation and history about it as we can, and we're calling it the mini museum. We've got a space that was generously donated, and we're collecting models, pictures, test results. We want to print off some really cool historic documents so people can understand that not only is there a future to this, but there's a really interesting past that ties to what is Jersey City, why was it here? The history of rail has a big part to play in educating folks about the history of Jersey City. So comment like very well taken. One of the things that we've struggled with is like, where are the dollars in the world right now? And unfortunately, low on the list is park and green space, and I can't even get maybe low enough to talk about new park and green space. So there's state dollars, there's green acres, we have an application in for some adjacent pieces that would allow future access to the arches, but it's a tough puzzle to think about how to fund this in a way that gets something done in a time frame that I think we would all think is appropriate. It's been, again, how long? 70 years sitting here. Part of the reason I'm excited is because I honestly don't want to wait that long. Before my kids grow up, I want to take them through this thing, and I want it to be meaningfully done in a path, in a way that educates kids about nature and history. And if you want to fly by and community, do that too.
Sorry, Chris. To the extent that you can, if you could speak on the mic, just so we ensure that the audio for the folks joining online is working.
Testing. You guys like this?
Oh.
No.
You don't like
Oh,
that?
your voice was better.
You can hold it.
Do we like this one?
Oh, there we
Yeah,
go.
that's
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, Sir Loren?
There were a number of presentations given, I guess, last year at Dickinson. And at the time, the people advocating for the park didn't seem to be too keen on the idea of sharing a park with transportation. And I don't recall ever hearing at those the idea of converting it to a bus lane. So attitudes have changed recently, haven't they? When did New Jersey Transit introduce the idea of a bus lane?
Yeah, it's been on and off for a long time, the idea of a bus lane. The reality of the site is that it's controlled by New Jersey Transit, not the state DEP. And so the reality of the organization and the dollars is that there will likely be a transit component if this is to move forward. But good question, how do you incorporate green space? For those of us who have just joined, we did break out the tape measure. We measured this off. We got wall to wall plus a smidge in this room. So more than enough space to have multiple uses, which I think is the vision that a lot of folks are bringing to this is, can there be more than one thing? And if there is more than one thing, what does that look like? And that's really what we want to hear and then study and then present in a meaningful, well-organized way.
Okay. So has New Jersey Transit done any type of studies down there in terms of the cleanup? Have they done any type of analysis on how much it would cost just to clean it up to pave it? Because there's a lot down there. So, and there's also a lot of water, and it's a mile long, correct?
That is roughly correct, yeah. One of the things they've asked us to do and generously given us a license agreement and the right to hire engineers to do, and we've started, is to dig a whole bunch of little holes and big holes and see what's in the little holes and big holes. So that process is ongoing. The vision is that this will be a in some capacity will be capped. We're very lucky with the arches because they are fundamentally at the bottom of the cut. So there isn't a lot of soil that's accumulated, there isn't a lot of material. And although there has been dumping in there from construction sites along the arches and from folks who unhelpfully throw parts of their old hot water heaters and things off the roadway, thankfully most of that can be hand carried, and that's a proposal we've taken in transit also, is how do we just clean up some of the surface debris. But the fundamental direction that this study is headed in is to have the rock layer, have the existing material largely from the period when it was a railroad, have it capped, and have parts that aren't capped left for nature with a little tiny fence and a note to stay on the path, please. And that's consistent with how New Jersey approaches, from a DEP perspective, other sites like this. The bus lane, again, multiple different ways that a bus lane can exist. One could be more of a paver system. Some are just straight paved, but the concept is that people would not be actively in that space, and so there wouldn't be soil disturbances. So as long as it's capped with gravel and the elements that you would need to have a bus lane, that meets the sort of keep it in place, if you will, and put a little lid on it.
So New Jersey Transit isn't doing that study now. You guys are kind of spearheading it, and then whatever you give them, they will, when they decide to move ahead, they'll initiate their own, just to figure out a cost, because to pave and clean that up is going to be considerable, even for a bike lane.
There has been a lot of different numbers. I brought out my own little math machine, and I've encouraged people to think of this as a staged process. And one process that could happen relatively quickly and relatively inexpensively is opening them up one portion of the arches and putting down gravel in the way that, think of like a suburban driveway in New Jersey has gravel, and then paving it the way a suburban driveway in New Jersey has gravel. And so instead of the millions and millions of dollars that folks had floated around years ago for a full cleanup, you're into the New Jersey residential driveway amount of dollars plus lighting. The way it was designed is it's designed at a slope, and so it sheds water to either side and then slopes out. So it's fortunately self-draining now. It doesn't self-light itself, so you do need lighting. It doesn't self-protect itself, so you do need a security and an acknowledgement that there are going to be some city infrastructure pieces like there are in all parks. But there's a relatively low-cost option to have a really special portion opened in a small section of the arches.
I have a couple of questions online that I'll combine. So if people have ideas about what they'd like to see in the arches, how can they get that information?
Do we have a form anywhere that people can go to and type in their ideas?
Yeah, we're creating a form
Nice.
on our website.
Okay.
We'll probably have that launched by tomorrow.
Okay,
And people can submit their comments as well through the website.
great. And
We also take old-fashioned paper, so if anyone wants to write an idea or a picture or a comment, we would welcome that. And then this is the first of several meetings. Hopefully we get better and more fun, and the jokes kind of land a little better over time. So don't think of this as your last chance. Think of this as your first chance and our worst pitch so far. So stand by for a better, more exciting pitch, and share your ideas with us then.
And I'll offer for folks who are members of JSQCA, and especially since this is my last day on the board, if you want to use our channels to kind of get information, we can kind of consolidate that and get that to you guys as well. So the second part of the question is, if members of the community want to be advocates for the vision that they want to see, who should they be advocates to? Should they be petitioning New Jersey Transit, the city, state elected officials, all of the above?
I would say yes, right? One of the best things is just heartfelt comments from people who have a historic connection to the arches, an understanding of the arches, a willingness to engage in studying them and be involved in the future. So all of the above. We also hope to run a process of gathering comments centrally that we can present to New Jersey Transit as part of our eventual comment period to them. So anyone should feel free to reach out to any elected officials and just let them know this is on their radar. But also please share your ideas with us so that they don't get lost and we can follow up with you. And if you want to get involved and do more related to education or community events, we have our mini museum. We're looking for volunteers to staff it for an hour or two on a Saturday so folks can come in, see the other half of the model. Nobody's seen it yet. Come on, you got a hook. And then we want to print off some more displays. There's a really incredible and deep historic legacy for the Arches. So we want to be part of bringing that to folks just from an educational perspective. So do get involved and do share your comments.
Hi. To what extent have you actively worked with the Jersey City Bike and Walk Coalition and the Embankment Preservation people? Because they also have quite a lot of experience, it would appear, to an outsider in these kinds of matters.
I would say a little bit is the answer, but we need to gather the neighborhood's view of what they want this to be. There's a really good question as to, what should this be, right? If it's just gonna be a straight bus lane that connects into Holland Tunnel, I would love to chat with the Embankment, but they might say like, that's not so awesome of an idea you're coming, like what are we even talking about? You don't even connect to us. So step one, we really want to understand what do folks want. The bike community has been wonderful in sharing their ideas, and the fact that this connects to the Essex Hudson Greenway, which connects to an innumerable number of other trails, is really an asset that is appreciated, but could be appreciated more broadly. So I personally hope that the energy is towards connecting with those groups more. But we want to hear it from you before we just kind of run out and go off and do stuff on behalf of the community.
Where is your museum?
Where's the museum? Critical question. 2815 Kennedy Boulevard on the corner of Kennedy and Tunnelly. Second floor. I'm only there a few hours a week, so if you just show up, probably not going to be exciting. The door will be closed and locked. But if you can make an appointment, we're going to try and have some more regular time.
What was the address again?
2815 Kennedy Boulevard. In our presentation, we will throw it up at the end. Yeah, we all live right here, right? Just if you're wondering how we got here today, see the red cart? We pushed it. Yeah, it's very close. We pushed the cart through the snow. Worked out just fine. A little comedy, overall fine. Yes.
We're going to be giving an update later on the embankment, but I really appreciate your comment. I think we should all be working together, and I'm hoping that the Journal Square organization really accepts our vision of what should be there, because we have an ecology vision on the embankment. If you read the Washington Post, they recently reported that showed a map of the whole country, and the only segment of Jersey City that has sufficient tree canopy, according to their American forestry standards, is a portion that contains the embankment. I'm not sure that they were able to map the Bergen Arches, but it may also qualify. So, you mentioned before that, that very little money is available for open space, but open space development is also the lowest cost kind of development you can have. And if our economic statistics included the benefits of green space and tree canopy to the health and well-being of the community, you might see that it's extremely low cost. So I'm hoping that your organization really considers all the possible uses and weighs, open space really heavily in your thoughts.
Thank you.
Also, one more thing. You also mentioned safety, or someone, Mia mentioned safety. And that's always comes up whenever you're talking about any project like the Embankment or the Bergen Arches. 27 years ago when we started our advocacy work, people said, people will be throwing themselves off the embankment. Then the Newport Mall was built, and I don't remember anyone throwing themselves off the second floor of the Newport Mall. There are ways that you can design things so that these scare stories don't happen. And it's the same with the Bergen Arches. There have been, again, when we started our work, we looked at trail studies. People always resist trails going through their property, near their property, whatever. But it's like the old Jane Jacobs formulation for New York City, eyes on the street. You have people using trails in open space, they're safer than they are if they're just left the way they are. So,
I saw one more hand and then it disappeared. Did we cover everyone's questions? Two more, okay.
I just wanted to add, I'm not sure if you pointed this out at the beginning, and it's not really a question, but does everybody realize that the cut was blasted through the rock?
Yeah.
And that the trees down there are not like 200 years old. So sometimes people get very upset when they go to modify a green area. So it's good to point out that you're not, there's a lot of non-native plants down there. And I'm not sure that people realize how remarkable it is that they did that then, but that the growth is only 100 years old versus, some old growth forest. So that if you have to go in and make lanes or do whatnot, then you're not gonna have this blowback from people who wanna leave it really wild, like it's from some ancient time. So just an observation.
Far be it for me to judge one plant from another, but there is a fair amount of poison ivy down there. And so we all should love plants, but I have not found strident defenders of poison ivy. So there are some plants that probably folks could understand departing with.
So there is another question online. It's how serious is New Jersey Transit about some form of transit through the arches? And then I'll add on to that, kind of process-wise, like are they gonna have to go through an environmental review process, like a NEPA process that takes years before they get into like designing and constructing something in here? Like, do they have a clear sense or have they communicated a sense of what their process and timeline would be?
I have found that there are deeply committed and incredibly wonderful people in New Jersey Transit, and that they pointed out that they just got a new boss, and their boss's boss just got a new boss, and their boss's boss's boss just got a new boss. And so the information I have is dated, but I can tell you that for years there was not a lot going on, and they have been very forthcoming in letting us do work and giving us access that has never happened before.
Okay.
And so I take that as a very positive sign. I also take it as a very positive sign that the embankment has moved forward dramatically, and that on the other end of the arches, the state is spending, tens of millions of dollars for an Essex Hudson Greenway that wants to land in one end of the arches. And so there's very serious funded groups and undertakings on either side of the arches. New Jersey Transit has been incredibly generous with staff time, with resources, with access for us. And so I take all of those things as very positive signs. I'm hopeful that the wonderful comments that you all have shared and the excitement is something that we can use to keep moving this forward. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Do feel free to check out the models. We have some very fun pictures over there. And we have some more slides too. This isn't the end. You thought we were done? No, it's not yet.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Chris asked, is there any federal input here? Like, it's the federal government who has to be involved in any way, shape, or form, but this is strictly a state thing, and we don't need to worry about this administration torpedoing anything.
Interesting question. There are federally regulated railroads that are adjacent to the site and that own the air rights over the site. So there are some questions, but as far as the steps to have a portion of the arches open for a path for education and for New Jersey Transit's purposes, there doesn't appear to be a limiting factor at this time.
Is the right of way abandoned, like federally, or is it still
Inactive.
Okay.
We were talking earlier about the sandwiches of rights as to who owns the very bottom of the arches to 20 feet, New Jersey Transit, who owns above that rail line, who owns surface streets, county, Jersey City, who has the parks at the top, Jersey City. And so there's a whole number of groups that have interconnecting interests here in addition to any number of tax parcels. So there's a more complex answer that we could sit down and chat about and think about how do we explain that to folks in a way that even I can understand, much less properly explain. Wrap up the last few slides here. Keep it moving, let's keep it moving. You all gave us an hour and my watch is now out of battery, so I'm flying blind up here. Do feel free to come by and check out the rest of our arches. We'll have a number of other studies. This is a couple of different ideas related to stairways and access that NJIT students did. Some really interesting thought into that. So we hope to have some of those printed up so folks can understand just some of the more mundane things: water, sewer, lighting, drainage, access, how do you get an ambulance in there if somebody falls, how do you get the fire trucks in, like all that kind of mundane stuff. NJIT just incredibly wonderfully did an architectural studio where they turned a bunch of architecture students loose on each one of these aspects, gave us, you know, a nice 20-point deck on all these things, and there's some great stuff in there. Come by the museum to see it. Comment period. You know, please do share your thoughts. That's why we're here, honestly, is to get meaningful feedback. So please take the time to share something with us. It's the grand finale. Get involved if you want, and you know, stand by, Journal Square Association folks. You know, we would like to have a conversation about how to run education in a meaningful way, including getting some more printed slides and some more material that people can see, because I think visually, at least from what I found, visually is what lets people understand this at this point, because they're not able to access the arches and see it for themselves.
Great. All right, thank you. Thank you, Chris and Rahid. And this is only the beginning. So JSQCA and Bergen Arches, we're going to have a very fruitful and ongoing dialogue, you know, as this project continues. And so for the members of JSQCA, stay tuned. We will, you know, ideate on best ways to crowdsource feedback from you guys. And so tonight is not like a one and done. This is just like the beginning. And also just want to acknowledge our councilman, Tom Zuba, who has arrived. So thank you, Councilman. Oh, and Commissioner Yoraida Lipsky, thank you for coming. For those who don't know, Tom was actually the previous JSQCA president, and so it's awesome that now he's, you know, an ally in a new capacity for the community. So we look forward to working with Tom and other elected officials at Bergen Arches on moving this project forward. And so stay tuned, more to come on that front. Now we're going to switch gears a bit, and so I believe that the embankment needs a few tech changes, and during that time, we're going to hear from Laura Moss regarding Courthouse Park, and so she'll give some brief remarks regarding what's happening there. That's a project that's like maybe a few blocks outside of like the Journal Square boundaries. We're going straight into it. That's right.
Awesome. All right, good evening, everybody. I'm sorry I didn't bring anything to display. I didn't realize I was just gonna give an update here. So just a show of hands, how many people here are already familiar with Courthouse Park? All right, the bulk of you are, so I don't need to kind of go into the actual park, and I'm just gonna get into the updates. I'm not sure, I think we met last year. My name's Laura Moss. I'm president of the Courthouse Park Advocacy Group. We have another member here, Russell Dover, is also on my board. We've been working on this project since 2019. Several people here, as well as our councilman, and many people have been involved with it since the beginning. So currently, as you all probably know, the Guarini complex, the new courthouse, is not occupied by the county yet. It was finished about a year ago. There has been delays, and basically what we're working on right now is getting to the bottom of the delays and trying to get a date for when they will move from 595 Newark Avenue into the Guarini complex. Once that happens, the consultants that the city has hired in order to do the asbestos testing in 595 in order to get a proper bid to take that building down can actually get started. And that process is probably going to take about 8 months. So we're dealing with two issues. Getting the county out of the building so that the city can get the testing done, and then the actual bidding will go out, and then nothing will happen for a while from the outside. So we are still easily a year or two away from seeing things with our eyes happening. So it is very frustrating. Currently, myself and now Councilman Zupa are meeting with the county and the commissioners once a month to go over these details and to continue to push them for answers as to why these delays are happening. We have been told that it is an issue with the state of New Jersey, because a lot of people don't realize this. All of this stuff is intertwined, right? All the stakeholders, the county, the city, and it gets a little complicated because who's on top, right? Who pulls the most weight in this situation? And we're down here. All we have is you guys to fight for this and to continually push to get them moving along, because it's not necessarily a priority for anybody except us. The county is behind this project, but I would like to see more initiative on their part. Yes, a little bit of sense of urgency. So, and we also have had a complete changeover in the city administration, which we pretty much lost most of the fall because of elections and whatnot. But I have spoken with, when Mayor Solomon was a councilman, I met with him. He has given his support for the project. $14 million was bonded out for it, so we have that much. There's an additional $2 million from the state of New Jersey to go towards it. Until we get an estimate on how much it's going to cost to do the demo, we won't know if there's going to be any, if there's going to be more funding needed. But we have to cross that bridge when we get to it. We are continuing to push for that number so that as a community we can approach some of the developers to see if they can assist in this project. And we're just still evolving the design, but we've come really, really far. It's just a matter of getting the county to continue to move, to just move, to do something. We do have some good news. There was a little bit of a back and forth about the underground parking underneath 595 Newark. The county wanted to hold on to it. As of my last meeting, they have let go of that particular desire because they realized how much money it would cost to reinforce it. So that is one of the better things we've heard, the good signs. But it's still very frustrating, and I really encourage everyone here to reach out to your elected officials and express your frustration that this is taking so long. Because every delay will cost the city more money. It just is inevitable. Because it's the state and the county, we're not really brought to the table. So